So Mystical Night won his bumper at Warwick.
Yeah.
Tell us about him.
Yeah, he did it very, very nicely. I mean, it probably helped him at the time. He was an older horse, a 6-year-old against 4-year-olds, but even still, you couldn't be more impressed with the way he did it. And actually, what impressed me more, we'd worked around Fosslas sort of a few weeks before that with Aurora d'Estravalle and Fisher's Cross, who were both high-rated horses, and he was, you know, had the better of them too. So I actually judged him a bit more on that than what he did the other day in his bumper.
So he's very good, potentially.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he won 2 point-to-points. Not that that means too much, but yeah, his last couple of things he's done impressed me, and he's brilliant to jump. He's really, really quick. So it might sound ambitious, but I'm hoping to get him to the festival over Hurdles. We're going to run him now in a couple of weeks. And he's had that much experience, I don't think it'll matter. He's doing it this side of the season. He's done so much pointing, and he's a brilliant jumper, so that's the plan with him.
Okay, so what's your feeling about his best trip?
I think he'll stay all day, but he's not slow, but I don't think he'd want much under 2.5, so 2.5 to 3 mile, I'd say.
And what will you run him in next then? What will you start?
We'll just find an ordinary novice somewhere, probably 2.5 for him.
Yeah.
And step him up from that. I suppose you could say his Warwick win there, whether it's the fact he likes very deep ground, but all his point-to-point form is on, you know, good ground, so I think he'd be fairly versatile with ground. Hopefully. But he's a cave tower, they do like softish, don't they?
But you like him?
Yeah, I think he's very good. I hope I'm right, but he's got to go out and do the next stage now, but what he's shown us at home and Warwick there, he looks impressive.
And fences in time?
Yeah, definitely chaser, so whatever he does this year I think will be a bonus. He's a chaser for next season.
Nice bonus if he goes and wins a novice at the festival.
Yeah, be quite nice.
There'd be a lot of Romford Pelé fans out there wondering where we're going to see him next. What's the plan?
Well, the trouble we've got with him now is he hates soft ground. And I suppose, you know, long term, I think, because he stays so well, maybe not the best jumper in the world, but I think the way the National's gone, he'd get away with a fencer, so that'll be, I think, the main aim now is the National end of the season. And to prep him for that, I mean, we can't not run him just because it's soft. We've got to get him fit for the season, but I think he's had a couple of runs now. We'll give him a little break and bring him out again in the spring then.
If you're preparing a horse for the National, what's in your mind? What kind of things do you need to do? Is it just getting him out and getting a few runs in, or are there other factors?
Yeah, I think you've got to, obviously they've got to be so fit for it. You wouldn't want to go there with just one run next spring, so I think it's important that they have a few runs through the season, even if, you know, things aren't ideal. It's also keeping them on a nice mark as well, isn't it? You want them at the right mark so they're guaranteed to get in. And you also, you know, with the National, you don't want them to be carrying too much weight, so I think the mark he's on now is perfect.
That's a tricky balance though now, isn't it? Because it's getting more compressed with more good horses running in it. So if, if you overdo that, you miss it.
Yeah, well, before you'd be guaranteed nearly to get in off 140, wouldn't you? Now, as the weights are going up and classier horses are starting to run, you'd wonder some years, would you get in off that?
So, Rebecca, I said, who else should we talk about? And you immediately said this horse, so who's this?
This is Imagine the Chat. I just think he's a nice future horse. He stays all day, jumps really, really well. And I think when they do them too, you've a chance of a nice horse.
Where did he run the other day?
He won quite impressively in Newbury. I had my doubts going in if he'd handle the very soft ground, but he handled it very well. But I suppose he's a year older now, so he's a bit more mature than when he ran there last.
And so what's the plan for him?
Be quite nice to run him in Cheltenham at the end of this month in the novice handicap. See how he gets on, and if he, you know, goes well there, we could think about maybe the novice handicap in the festival too. Doesn't look very happy about that idea, does he?
But presumably, if you're aiming down that competitive handicap route, you need a horse who's going to continue to progress, and you think he can do that?
Yeah, I think he's actually quite lightly raced. He only ran in a couple of bumpers. I think he had 3 runs last year, and it was only his second start of the fences last time. And you know, Newbury's very hard to jump round, I think, for a novice, and considering that was only his second time over fences, he jumped like an old handicapper really, which to go around Cheltenham I think you have to do.
How much schooling do you do with a novice, either before they start chasing and also once they are chasing?
I mean, we'll do a lot with them obviously before they run, but once they've run, it's normally just keeping their eye on. I think it's important, I think, to school them after their first run. I think that's the most important time you can do them. But
why is that?
Because a lot of novice horses, same with hurdles, they can get a fright or, you know, makes the odd mistake. I think, you know, after their first run it's important. But to me, horses are either natural jumpers or they're not.
So a horse like this, Rebecca, which you've had since it was a baby, you've been able to break it your way, start his training your way, prepare him your way, school him and race him in the Rebecca Curtis style.
Yeah.
And we end up with this, which is a horse who's pretty relaxed and slowly improving.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that is a point, but I don't necessarily... It's actually quite nice having them that someone else has done all the... not the dirty bit with them, but, you know, you have some of these horses you have that have won a point-to-point, you know, they're schooled, they've been out, they've had schooling bumpers. For me, actually, I'd nearly rather that than... Because I'm probably too patient with our stores, which I think in the long term maybe works out well for them because it does give them time to progress, but I think they can be quite frustrating, especially the ones you put, you know, all that effort into and they're very limited ability-wise.
I suppose that in the end is the thing, isn't it? You know, no matter how you handle them and how you prepare them and how you train them, they're either good or they're not.
Yeah, and that's so true, and that's why I suppose when we go back to buying something that's won a bumper or point-to-point, even if, you know, they may not end up a top horse, at least you know they've some level of ability. Whereas with your stores, you've no idea really. But even still, I think if you buy the right types by a sire you like and they look athletic at the time, I think most of them you won't go too far wrong with.
So, as the National Hunt season moves into 2016, Rebecca Curtis and her team of proven performers and exciting newcomers are advancing towards what promises to be a bright horizon.